You are watching Phoenix 24, and here is WatchWhojo's Doctor Who's Best Long Takes. WatchWhojo does not claim any affiliation with WatchWhojo. No copyright infringement intended. Good, on we go. In this video I will be counting down my top 10 long takes in Doctor Who. There are usually three main reasons you would use a long take in a film or TV show. The first is realism. The longer you stay on a character or stay in a shot, the more realistic a shot is, because as soon as you cut, it reveals that it is a piece of filmmaking. The second is to disguise an impossibility. Often when something is done that is impossible, it is best to do it in a long take, because that will convince the audience that the impossible thing has happened. Doing something in a single take, in ways, makes it true or real. And the third is for fun. Often a director will do a long take simply because it is complicated, and it will show that they're talented, or will just make something interesting for the audience to watch and grab the eye. Despite the name, a long take does not have to be a single take. In fact, quite often it is usually several takes, or perhaps different layers of green screen, made to look like a long take. And quite often, the fun of a long take is trying to figure out how they faked it. Rosa. In Rosa, the Doctor and the fam are trying to keep time in place, while Krasko is trying to change history. In this scene, Krasko is trying to stay one step ahead of the Doctor by trying to get all the buses to stop so that Rosa won't be asked to stand, while the Doctor is watching him do this. The single take from the bus, round behind the car where Graham and the others are watching, demonstrates this fact beautifully. And as many may not have spotted, it is done in one single movement. Trial of a Time Lord. In Colin Baker's final series, there was a lot of nervousness that the show would be cancelled. The trial itself is a metaphor for the fact that the show is almost on trial with the viewers and the BBC themselves. It opens with one of the most ambitious shots ever created, the scene where the Time Lords take the TARDIS out of space. The shot involved uses a model of the Gallifreyan spaceship, with a camera flying very, very close to the surface of it as we see the TARDIS get sucked inwards. Even though this would be quite a small shot in modern standards, and would probably be all CGI, it is still remembered as a groundbreaking shot and one of the longest takes of the classic series. For Tonight We Might Die. While this is not a Doctor Who episode, it is from the spin-off Class. It also includes the Doctor, and is one of the longest takes in the Whoniverse, so I feel comfortable including it. This is the post-credit sequence from the first episode of Class. The reason this shot is so interesting is it works on so many different layers. The camera pans around several characters, introducing their personalities, as well as plot points and the location of the series. It introduces us to the series with ease, meaning that with only a few simple seconds we learn a lot about what the show is going to be and take in a lot of information that will be useful in the future. It also shows us that the directors and the people behind the show are creative and will be able to use the cameras and the shots intelligently to not only convey information but make the show interesting. Rose. When Series 1 of Doctor Who was commissioned, there were a lot of changes involved. Often pacing was out, so new scenes had to be filmed, or occasionally a visual effects shot was proven too expensive to make, and so alternatives had to be created. When they got to the edit of Rose, they realised that it was running under pace. A scene was devised where the Doctor and Rose walk from the Powler state to the TARDIS while having a discussion. This scene became memorable because it is the first time we see the Ninth Doctor's personality for a prolonged period of time. However, what you may not notice is that the camera does not cut for the whole walk. Honourable mentions.
Something very familiar about all this.
These long takes are in honourable mentions not because they are poorer or shorter, in fact some of them are technically better long takes, but because there is more obvious fakery involved, or the final cut did not involve the full take. The Bells of St. John. To demonstrate Clara's first appearance in the TARDIS, at least the modern-day Clara, the director decided that they should go into the TARDIS from the outside world, enter the TARDIS, and then relocate, thus doing both the bigger on the inside and the time-space transportation effect in one movement. This is one of the most obvious examples of long-take fakery. We clearly haven't gone from Clara's house to the plane in one movement. The trick is how you cover up the join. The first join is quite obvious, moving into the TARDIS. They go from the outside world to the indoor set. However, there is a second cut when they reach the plane. The second cut in this take is very cleverly disguised. It would have been illogical to have built a whole plane set outside the TARDIS doors. What they instead did was they went to a plane and built a small portion of the TARDIS set on the plane, specifically the doorway. What we are seeing here is not the TARDIS set, but simply the TARDIS walkway to the doors that had been recreated on another set. You can see the cut here is disguised when Clara jumps in front of the camera. The angle and colour contrast slightly changes. Day of the Doctor. There were many interesting shots in the 50th anniversary episode. However, I feel the most impressive long shot is the Gallifrey Falls painting. Although none of this is taking place in camera except from John Hurt at the end and Jenna Coleman at the beginning, this is the most impressive shot because it takes us from the outside of the painting, through the frame, and all the way through several miles of Gallifrey. Also, given that this was done 3D in cinemas, the whole piece will have had to have been taken twice, one for the left angle and one for the right angle to get the 3D effect. It is also repeated later on when Matt Smith and David Tennant arrive as the 10th and 11th Doctors. The Doctor Falls. Originally intended as Peter Capaldi's final episode, before Stephen Moffat wrote Twice Upon a Time, this scene was intended to be the Doctor's final victory against the Cybermen before he blows up the ship. Rachel Talalay's decision was to have the Doctor run through the forest in one single take. The strict direction meant that the Doctor could run through a forest, zap his sonic screwdriver, and the Cybermen would blow up in perfect synchronicity. This was achieved, and it creates incredible effect. The final edit, however, is interspliced with shots of the Cybermen jumping over trampolines. If you remove these intercut pieces, however, you can still see the long take in almost perfection. The Snowmen. At the heart of Doctor Who, there is an impossible illusion, the idea that a box that is bigger on the inside. Several attempts have been used to make this happen, however none has succeeded until 2012's The Snowmen. The effect was finally achieved by Saul Metzstein, although crew member Stefan Pearson would say it was his idea. The complicated thing about this effect is that there has to be some fakery involved. You would either have to walk to the outside set and then cut to the inside without any movement being shown, or you would have to somehow transport around the real set, although the problem is that the wall would be in the way. The way this was finally achieved in The Snowmen is a CGI TARDIS outside is rotated around. We then cut to a shot of Jenna Coleman and Matt Smith on a dry ice-laden floor. The green screen that lies around the outside of the TARDIS is removed to give a CGI TARDIS outside. The movement is also joined up with a crane that goes to a Steadicam. You can see the jolt here. The final take means that we see the first reaction of Victoria and Clara enter the TARDIS along with our own as we see the new TARDIS set. The effect has been later redone several times, but this will always be remembered as the first time this shot happened, a piece of Doctor Who history. The Ghost Monument. Because this was director Mark Tonderai's debut in Doctor Who, as well as only the second episode with Jodie Whittaker, he wanted to do something showy-offy. The crash of the spaceship in the Ghost Monument was filmed in an entire take. It was a very complicated piece because all the actors had to learn 5 pages of dialogue. There are several complicated pieces involved in this, including running around chairs, green screen on all the windows, pulling of levers, while all the time trying to make sure they don't look at the camera as it flies around their heads. While this was infuriating to film,
it was incredibly hard to work out. It was a kind of dance between the actors and the camera team, and everybody had to just pull together and get everything right.
All involved agreed that this was a fantastic shot.
It was amazing.
And it was a shame that in the edit, close-ups were included so that the entire shot did not make it into the final product. However, the longest piece is still one of the longest takes involved in the show. The Girl Who Waited. In The Girl Who Waited, Rory and Amy are split into 2 different time streams in the same room. To demonstrate this effect, there is a shot where Rory leaves the room, goes into Amy's time zone, although she's not there, and then comes back into his own room. This is one of few long takes that is actually done in camera. There could be several options. For example, the room that Rory walks into and out of could be a green screen, but it seems the most likely solution to this one would be that Matt Smith and the set designers simply jump in and out of shot within the 20 or so seconds it takes to do the button push. I hope you enjoyed this video of the Doctor Who Top 10 long takes and found it educational and entertaining. If you have any other long takes that I have missed out, or would like to suggest another top 10 list I could do, feel free to drop a suggestion in the comments.